بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد. So, welcome back to part 11 of our Learning the Arabic of the Quran course. And today we're going to continue with Ilmun Nahr, the science of sentence structure or Arabic grammar. And we're going to talk about gender. We're going to talk about the two genders that you can classify all nouns into. So Arabic is like those languages where every word is either masculine or feminine. For example, French is like that, Spanish is like that, Urdu is like that, um, and uh, and other languages. English is not like that. English basically you have to be a human being in order to be classified as masculine or feminine. Everything else is considered to be non-human. Um, However, Arabic is not like that. Arabic, every noun is going to be either masculine or feminine. So that's what we're going to talk about in this class. We're going to talk about the classification of nouns in terms of gender. Okay, so masculine in Arabic is mudhakkar and feminine is mu'annath. Okay, so keep that in mind. Mudhakkar is for masculine and mu'annath is for feminine. And then we're going to talk about some of the rules that distinguish a feminine word from a masculine word. So the majority of the words in Arabic are masculine. And so, what are the signs that will distinguish a feminine word from a masculine word to make it easier for us to understand? There's no one size fits all rule here. Most of the feminine words can be determined by looking at the word, but not all. There are some words that are feminine without falling under any specific. So we're going to try to cover this as much as possible to make it as easy as possible. So we have the two types of ism, nouns, in terms of gender. Okay, you have mudhakkar and you have mu'annath. Mudhakkar is also known as tadhkir in Arabic, okay, which would literally translate as masculinity. And mu'annath is also known as ta'neeth, which can be literally translated as femininity. So here's a chart for you to make it easier. Ism, and then you have the classification of ism in terms of gender. You have mu'annath on one side and then muzakkar on the other side. Okay. Now we're gonna look into the feminine words. Okay, so the feminine words or mu'annath will fall under one of the two categories. It'll either be qiyasi or it'll be sima'i. Qiyasi means that you can measure it. Literally, it can fall under a rule. So you can come up with a rule that will cover every part of the category, every aspect of the category. And simari basically means to listen, what is heard. Okay, so if the Arabs in the time of the Prophet ﷺ were heard to use a particular word in its feminine form, then that word would be classified as feminine, even though it does not fall under any particular rule. Okay, so yeah, simai. So again, here's the classification. You have noun, and then you have mudhakkar and mu'annas. And then we look at mu'annas. Mu'annas will go into two more categories. You have qiyasi, that which falls under a specific rule, and simai is that which does not fall under any specific rule. Okay, and then mu'annas qiyasi, qiyasi, the one that falls under a particular rule, that is of two types, lafzi and ma'nawi. Okay, lafzi means just by looking at the word. Love means word, right? So just by looking at the word, just by looking at the spelling, you can tell that this word is feminine. Okay, and ma'nawi means that you have to look at the meaning. Ma'nawi from ma'na, you have to look at the meaning in order to determine its gender. So there are three signs for a feminine word to be feminine by looking at it, okay, by its love, by its spelling. Okay, so number one, ta marbuta, the ta marbuta at the end. So this little rounded ta over here, okay. So wherever you see this round ta at the end of a word, you can automatically assume that this is a feminine word. Now there is one exception, and that exception is some masculine names have the ta marbuta at the end. And because they're masculine names, they will not be categorized as feminine. They will be categorized as masculine. For example, Talha. Talha is a masculine name. It's a name kept for males. In the time of the Prophet ﷺ, we have Talha radiallahu anhu, one of the Sahaba, okay, one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. Right? So now Talha has the ta marbuta at the end, but we're not going to classify it as feminine. It's going to be classified as masculine because it's the name of a male boy. Okay? So whenever you see the ta marbuta, you can 90% of the time come to the conclusion that this is a feminine word. Like I said, 90% of the time, not all the time, because there are exceptions to the rule. Okay, so you have ta marbuta, for example, you have imra'a, baqara, fidda. Okay, all these words are feminine. And then alif maqsura, number two, alif maqsura. Alif maqsura is that mini alif that is found at the end of words that end with a physical ya, but an alif is read instead. So alif maqsura. Maqsura literally means small, miniaturized. So maqsura is a small or miniaturized alif. So there's a miniaturized alif at the end of these words. Sughra, for example, husna, okay, kubra. Okay, so these are examples of alif maqsura, okay, coming at the end. And so whenever you see alif maqsura, again, 90% of the time you can jump to the conclusion that this is a feminine word. Again, 95% of the time you can say that. For example, there are exceptions. For example, Musa. Musa has the alif maqsura at the end, but obviously it is not a feminine word, it's a masculine word. Okay, so if it's a name of a male person, then that will be an exception to the rule and that will not be considered feminine, it will be masculine. But other than that, like I said, 95% of the time, if you see the alif maqsura at the end, then it will be feminine. Okay. Also, number three, alif mamduda. If you see the alif mamduda at the end, alif mamduda is the alif at the end followed by a hamza. Okay. The hamza will stretch the alif. Okay. Because of the hamza, you're stretching the alif, and that's why you call it mamduda. Alif mamduda, the stretched alif. Mamduda literally means stretched. Okay, so for example, you have sama'un, bayda, hasna. So these are examples of alif mamduda coming at the end, which will indicate the femininity of the word. moving forward, you have mu'annas al-ma'nawi, the feminine word that is known to be feminine because of the meaning. Okay, for example, you have names of women. So Zainab, for example, Zainab. Now, there's nothing in the word that indicates that it is feminine. For example, there's no ta marbuta at the end. There's no alif maqsura at the end. There's no alif mamduda at the end. But we will say that it's a feminine word. Why? Because Zainab is the name of a female. Okay? And words that can only be attributed to women. So there are words um, that we know that only women can experience and can be qualified as. For example, مرضع, مرضع. That should be, the ra should have a sukun on it. So مرضع means uh, a mother that is breastfeeding. A breastfeeding mother is called مرضع. Now, obviously, breastfeeding is a quality that only women can have. So, even though مرضع is a masculine word, it is feminine because only females can breastfeed. Okay. Similarly, hamil. The word hamil is used for what we would call in Urdu hamila. Right. So instead of saying hamila in the feminine form, you say hamil in the masculine form. Why? Because only females can conceive, and only females can become pregnant. Okay, so words that can only be attributed to women, okay, can will also be feminine based on their meaning. Okay, because the meaning tells us that only a woman can have this quality. Okay, moving forward. And then you have mu'annas as-sima'i. Al-mu'annas as-sima'i is that feminine word that does not fall under any particular rule. Okay, so those words that have no apparent signs of ta'nith, femininity, nor do their meanings denote it, but are used as feminine in classical Arabic. So when the Quran was being revealed, these words were used in, in their feminine form. Okay, for example, uh, ash-shams, okay, is feminine. The Quran uses ash-shams as in the feminine form. Okay, same as ard. Ard is used in the Quran in the feminine form. Some other words like jahannam, nar, which means fire. Okay, bi'run, which means well, jahim. So names of jahannam, names of jahannam, names of the fire of hell, mostly fall under the feminine category. Okay, you have rihun, for example, fulkun, which means ship. Okay, narun, which means fire. Okay, so these are words. Isba, isba means finger. Okay, so isba is feminine, but it doesn't have any signs of femininity. Okay. Now it's difficult to put all these into a particular rule, but some scholars have endeavored to do that. So they come up with some rules. For example, names of places, cities, countries, tribes are feminine. Like for example, Quraysh. Quraysh is feminine. It's the name of a tribe. Okay, names of countries like Iraq, names of cities, okay, like Medina al-Munawwara or Makkah al-Mukarramah or Taif, for example. Um, so names of places, cities, countries, tribes are considered to be feminine. And then you have parts of the body that are in pairs. For example, ayn. You have two eyes. Ayn is feminine. Udhun, which is the ear, is feminine. You have two ears. You have a pair of ears. Yad, for example, hands. Yad in Arabic is feminine. You have two of them. And then rijl, which means feet. That's feminine as well in Arabic because you have two of them. However, there are exceptions. Hajib is the eyebrows. Okay, hajib is not feminine; it's masculine, even though you have two of them. Mirfaq, which means the elbow. Okay, you have two of them, but it's still masculine. And khad, which means the cheeks. Okay, you have two of them, but it's still masculine. So there are exceptions, but you can say parts of the body that are in pairs are mostly feminine. Similarly, all Arabic letters from alif to ya, all the letters of the Arabic alphabet are feminine. Okay, so that's why you'll say ra maftuha or ba maksura or ta madmuma. Right? So you're going to use the feminine form to qualify it. And then names of winds. Names of winds in Arabic. Arabic is a unique language in that it has a name for every type of wind coming from every direction. Right? Okay, so Dabur, for example, the wind that comes from behind. Janub is the wind that comes from the south. Shamal is the wind that comes from the north. Samum is a very hot wind, very hot type of wind. You have Sar, which is a very cold type of wind. Harur again is a hot type of wind. Rihun, any type of wind is called rihun. Okay. Qabul is the wind that comes from the front. Sabah is the eastern wind. Okay, so if you notice, there is a wind, there's a name for a wind coming from every direction. And the reason why is because the Arabs lived in the desert, and for them, a wind coming from anywhere was a huge boon for them. It was a huge bounty for them, huge gift from Allah. And so they gave names for all the winds coming from different directions. And they knew that, okay, this wind from this direction is good news for us, and this wind from this direction is gonna, is gonna, they can sort of like give a forecast of the weather based on the winds that would be blowing in their midst. And so that's why Arabs had multiple names for the different types of winds that they used to experience. So anyways, this is the end of the presentation for today about gender of the nouns. Okay, nouns, all nouns in Arabic will either be masculine or feminine. Masculine words are more in number than the feminine ones. Feminine nouns can mostly be put into a category in terms of their rules. If there's a ta marbuta at the end, if there's alif maksura or alif mamduda at the end, then you'll know that this is a feminine word. Similarly, if the meaning gives it away, then you'll know that this is a feminine word. And then there are some words that is difficult to tell whether they're masculine or feminine, and this is where you're just going to have to memorize it. Okay, you're just going to have to remember and memorize it, like shams, for example, ard. Okay, so these are words, common words used in the Quran, shams and ard, that are feminine. Dar, for example, dar is also feminine. So again, this is the end of the presentation. This is a chart for you to look at, to go over and to summarize everything for you. So you have ism at the top, and then the two types in terms of gender. You have mudhakkar and you have mu'annath. Mu'annath is of two types. You have qiyasi, that falls under a rule, and simari, that does not fall under a rule. And then you have under qiyasi, you have lafzi and ma'nawi. Okay, lafzi is that which just by the structure you can tell that, by the spelling you can tell that the word is feminine, and ma'nawi means by looking at the meaning you can tell that this word is feminine. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. What I want you to do is look up at least 10 words in the Quran and categorize them in terms of gender. Is this word masculine or feminine? So look for anywhere between 10 to 20 words, write them down, write their meanings down. And we're talking about nouns here, right? So 10 to 20 nouns, write them down, write their meanings down, and then write down whether it's mudhakkar or muannas, inshallah. This will help you with your practice, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.